νομίζω κάνει φοβερή δουλειά στην Ομόνοια.
And we call taxi, and I put Kilian, I open the door behind, I put him in the taxi, and I close the door, and I want to go inside, and Kilian go out there.
You're gonna get someone messaging you afterwards saying, "Why did you mention me?"
Hey, fuck them.
She say, I cry because you are here today.
Πάμε σιλά καμουφτιά, ωραία, βρεγά, ποτάμισα.
Hello, welcome to another edition of the No Chapters podcast on the OLB. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tell your NOUNA. I'm your host, Stel. And I promised you guys that I would be doing this episode a few days ago. And here it is. I've got Charlie Mitchell with me, returning guest on No Chapters. You were at FC Pafos as a performance analyst, if I'm not mistaken. And this was part of your role, wasn't it? Looking at little mistakes here and there and feeding it back to Cameron Toshak. And you notice quite a lot of mistakes.
Well, none say it's not just mistakes, but you'll notice with a lot of the things we picked out, and obviously we've kind of focused on a few themes that they're rectifiable as well, which is obviously one thing to look at. And there's a mismatch of things that obviously you've covered in the last few weeks that might lead to some things that we're going to see here. But also at the same time, we're going to sort of suggest maybe a couple of things that, in terms of the team moving forward, that may be something that could be considered. I'm sure that, as well, coaches that have been for the last 2 years, there will be suggested, and I'm sure, they'll move forward with that.
No. Well, just for clarity, we're not here to criticize Henningberg. He's been under a lot of stress recently, and there's been a lot of horrible rumors going about, which I don't want to be hearing anything about, to be fair, because he doesn't deserve it. But we're just here to discuss certain elements, because throughout this season, I've been adamant that 4-4-2 isn't the right system for us, given the type of players that we have and given the performances. But having reviewed the footage that you sent across, and obviously with your edits, I don't think it's really a system issue. Would you agree with that? I know you've got some statistics as well to discuss.
Yeah, I think it's a purely, systems, whatever system you do put on the field in football, it's always going to have its strengths and benefits to it. And obviously you have to match that to the players that you have on the field at the same time. So, take it in your case that the particular profiles that he will have for each position that he wants on the field. And that's, again, that would have led to specifically last season's, such a good performance across the entire season. For the main part, it's very, very consistent, and that kind of shows in the statistics that we've kind of looked at. And obviously this year, it's been probably, I'd say, a more disrupted season. It's probably disrupted the system and the structure that he's built around what the club is about. And sometimes you'll see managers pursue, which obviously that's the decision for this season, or you'll see some managers chop and change and try to find something to pursue a new avenue.
Charlie, I was talking to a friend earlier about Omonia's season so far, and I was saying, if you look at what this club has been through in comparison to everyone else in the league, it's a massive, what's the word? I'm looking for the word anomaly, really, because when you look at the season as a whole, you had players coming back from international duty because of the Euros. So we had Lang, Hubachan and Duris. Okay, Duris wasn't a regular, but the latter, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So they're tired. They come into pre-season. Some of the signings that we made arrived injured. It took them time to settle. We had players coming in, players going out. And that was just the beginning. Then you got Champions League qualifiers, Europa League qualifiers, then the actual Conference League group stages. And then you can add little bits here and there, like, for example, the takeover bid for the club. Now, we know it didn't go through. We've heard the reasons why. That could play a significant part, especially when it comes to the players not knowing where their positions are going to be if the the move happens, if the takeover happens, the head coach. Now, I'm not saying they're not professional, but that could play a part. Then you've got a few other little things, like, for example, when we played Aboil in the derby, the match was abandoned after 20 minutes when we were on top. And then that's replayed at the beginning of on Boxing Day, should I say, and then we lost that one. But there's lots of little things, refereeing decisions, etc., etc. So I think it's a combination of loads of things as to where we are in the position in the table. Now, given everything that I've said, Omonioi's issues at this current moment in time, and especially with the things that I've just told you, how much of a part do you think all of those factors play in the season?
Massive, if I'm being honest. In that, I think it's got a massive effect, because in reality, you've had to repeat the same season twice, in terms of a very early pre-season and a long one. And obviously in between that, you've got a Euro campaign with some of your players away in international duty. You've got injured players that come in amongst it. And obviously, again, because of the long, 18 months that you've had, you start to see the fragileness of injuries. And obviously, there's a big thing in the UK at the moment about game time and, the backlog of fixtures and all this. And obviously for you guys, in terms of your European exploits, you've had games, qualification games, group stage games ×2, over the last 2 seasons, and a long-term effect of that is huge. And in terms of squad turnover for yourself, it's not been a massive turnover in terms of players, so it's those players are well exposed to that, and that's probably going to have a massive effect.
Thank you for putting my mind at ease. I thought I was going crazy. Well, mate, let's look at these incidents, these moments that we found together, but you found some other ones as well. And we'll begin with, if I can get this one up on the screen, just a second. Where is it? There we go.
Yeah. Before we start, we can just have a bit of a backstory to it. Obviously, being a 4-4-2 team out of possession, you required to be quite high intensity from wherever you press on the pitch. So if you look at the teams from the last sort of 5-10 years that have been successful within this system, out of possession, the immediate attention is drawn to Leicester and Atletico Madrid. And that's not to say, they've got very variable pressing lines. So sometimes Atletico will press high, sometimes they'll sit deep, and then they'll press within that. But Leicester obviously were quite a low press team, and they counter-attacked. But in games where, for example, let's draw upon Atletico Madrid are required to dominate the ball and dominate possession, they have the particular ways of going about that. But what they are very good at is protecting themselves on transition, which, and again, is some of the clips we're going to sort of go through in a second. So, that's one of the key things to remember, that it's not a dead system. It's just something that, it requires all the mechanical parts to be in tune at the same time. And this is probably, we're going to obviously go through some of that now.
Brilliant. Okay, so the first video we're going to pull up is the goal against Apollon. I mean, that is the problem with doing these videos, is that the more you see it, the more it gets worse. So this is the opportunity. Darbo's just done Kiko there. He's got to the byline, pulled it back, and Hubo's poked it in the net. It's an own goal. What can you tell us about this particular one, mate?
Well, these first sort of set of goals are all coming from wide areas and defending the box. So particularly with the 4-4-2 out possession system, you're set up to protect central areas, as a must. But you've got to be expecting opposition to try and attack you in wide areas. So It's very, very key at the start of that video, particularly in wide areas, that your players or any players, wide players, have to be able to prepare to defend 1v1, 2v2, and deal with these situations to stop A, crosses into the box, and B, obviously them getting past you and get to the byline to put balls across goal. And then obviously when this happens now, you'll see this is a 1v1 situation or 2v2 with those players.
Well, the question I have here for you, Charlie, is when you look at Kiko's positioning, he doesn't look like he's got on the wrong side of him at all. He looks pretty safe. He's got him on the flank. That's ideally where you want him to be.
Yeah.
But he's just overpowered, isn't he?
Yeah, he challenges with the wrong side of his body. Obviously, in there for me, he goes in with his left foot. I know he's a left-footed player.
Yeah.
Before anyone goes for me on that one, you got to try and keep your opponent wide, and I wouldn't call it a lazy challenge, but it's not the technical correct thing to do in that position. There, he has to keep his opponent wide, stay close, force away with his right side of his body, and then obviously protect the cross. But then now in this position, there's only one real place that he's going to put it. Unfortunately, the body positioning of the player in front of the centre forward for Apollon there, if anything's played in front, he's facing his own goal. Same likewise if it's put across in between the keeper and the defender there. So obviously this is what happens now.
Well, it's Hubo, isn't it, that puts in the back of the net? This guy here,
yeah,
he's on that puts in the back of the net. But in terms of his positioning on the edge of the 6-yard box, again, would you be happy with that? I mean, I don't see any issues with it. But again, he's looking at the ball. You'd think that Janka, I think he's well marked.
Yeah.
So
he's obviously, as soon as players get to the byline, you're kind of in those positions. Obviously, he's very fixated on the ball, but he's kind of taking up positions where he's expecting a cutback to come.
Right. Okay.
So he's obviously expecting it to be pulled back to the central area, for a tap in from the penalty spot, 6-yard box area. But as well, for me, in these situations, you've got to be worried about the one that's going to come across goal.
Yeah.
And obviously now, which is what happens where, gets him caught a bit square, and as soon as it's played in front of him, he's obviously facing his own goal. So,
sorry, I'm just I clicked the wrong one. See, you can tell that this isn't live, thank goodness, because if it was, I'd be doing my head in. Yeah, but let me see if I can bring this up there. That might make more. There we go.
We're not Sky Sports. We're good.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So he's beating him. It's too easy. Even that second bite there, where he's had the opportunity. That's more like a desperate lunge, isn't it?
It's a desperate lunge. Yeah. That's right.
So
now he's just there. You see, he just adjusts himself because he's preparing for the one back to the penalty spot. But now, because he's not readjusted and obviously in time, and it's a very difficult skill to do.
It's a horrible one, though, isn't it, Charlie? Because and you stick out your leg, you don't know where that's going to go.
Yeah, it's a 50-50. Well, it's not probably in the 50-50, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Maybe the keeper should have done a bit better as well. I don't know. What do you reckon? Do you think Fabi should have done a bit better for that?
Again, difficult because I think his recovery angle to protect the near post is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
For me, if it's fired at him, the only thing he can really do with it is parry it out into central areas. You've got bodies anyway. He's just unlucky because he gets a nick off of Hubo and it goes in. So he's a little bit unlucky. All
right, next goal. This is the first one that made my head explode. It was against Abuel. Forget it's
there. You go, 1v1 on the touchline.
Yep, that's Ndongala against Psati. Now, this was never going to work. Psati was never. To be honest, not many players can beat Ndongala for pace anyway. So sorry, you were saying. So it's 1v1, beats him, no problem.
Yeah, don't let him inside, but unfortunately, he's driven inside. But it's okay now because you've got an opportunity to force him wide. And again, even if you get to the byline, you've got more bodies than they have at the moment within the box. So it should be a situation that it should be dealt with. But if you just roll it on a little bit further, okay, no, don't let allow the shot, which is, again, you've got bodies in the way now. But even now, 6 versus 4. Yeah, you want bodies flying out to stop any sort of danger situation, any shots now to allow through, but it just allows them a little bit extra time and space to get the shot away.
Do you think the centre backs should have been a bit more closer to each other?
Centre backs probably okay, but I think they need to jump on the pass.
Right.
So you see, he gets blocked off here. So if you just call it, he gets blocked.
Oh.
Even for me, that the centre midfielder who's recovered then was also ball watching.
Yeah, well, Banayolu here.
Yeah, he's ball watching.
The thing is, mate, if you, let me see if I can take it back again. I'm going to take it back 2 seconds because what he's done. Bloody thing! Stop it! Stop annotating. I don't want to annotate now.
I'll draw anymore.
I'm going to draw. Yeah, I'll draw in a minute. Yeah. So even before, such as calling for the ball already.
Yeah.
So at what point is he being picked up? He's not at all. I mean, Banayodo is looking at the ball and he's on the edge of the D.
It has to be his priority now.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But this, again, I can't be too critical because he's a centre-back. He's a centre-back and he's played a handful of games centre midfield. So, again, for me, this is another learning curve. That being said, I'm really anal about stuff like this. And when I see a player in 10, 15 yards of space calling for the ball, you got to look for him. You got to look to track him down because if you don't, this happens. You know, as you said, it was too easy. It was too easy.
Yeah, I mean, I know if you might be a centre back, but for me, you've got to recover and deal with the danger.
Yeah.
The nearest player becomes danger and the priority. You know, and 6 versus 4, maybe 6 versus 3 before he joined in that situation. It's something that's, you know, would sting a little bit.
Yeah. All right, on to the next, mate. On to the next, because this is actually painful viewing for me anyway. All right, this is an orthodoxy. We lost 1-0.
This is a strange one. So, again, you're back in our place. I know centre backs come across here to deal with the wide area, which just happened. So, obviously, with the way Novsis play. So now, if you stop it there, So he's now tracked the runner. So we think everything should be okay. If you just roll it on, and obviously the camera cuts.
That's right, because it takes it close up to Juste and Lazaroya. Okay, I'm going to stop it right here. Juste's trying to shepherd him out. Okay, how does he let him get his foot across the ball, get his foot right around the ball? Surely you got to be blocking it, no?
Yeah, I mean he's obviously trying to shield the ball out for a goal kick, but
he's not doing anything wrong. Don't get me wrong, but the fact is he's let him get the ball across. Yeah.
I mean, you know, again, you should be able to deal with this situation, but again, these things do happen. But the bit again that would have annoyed me a bit now that this person now has arrived on the ball.
Yeah.
You know, he's been tracked-ish, but he's still 5 yards away from it. Inside the box, which is a bit of a, you know, they've allowed him to run from 10 yards outside the edge of the box into your own box and receive while being watched.
Yeah, and I think there's another issue here. This guy,
Amir
Varda, the guy that you don't want to leave unmarked in the box, given that he's their leading goal scorer. But anyway, let's have a look. What happens next? What happens next, Stel? What happens next? What happens next is that I try and close this and it doesn't close. Here we go.
Yeah, mostly free inside.
That's Gacharava on his own as well. Now, okay, you could argue that Varda's mishit it, right? And Gacharava's got lucky with the ball breaking to him. But as you said, with the marking, it's just, I don't know. I'm looking at Zahario at the bottom, the number 20 on the edge of the box. Could he have done more?
Yeah, so the way, this is my preference as a coach here to deal with this situation. Obviously, for me, the two that recovered into the centre of the goal have done the right thing. So, you know, ideally, you probably don't want to isolate them 1v1 or 2v2 because, again, if the 15 for Novsis slips away off the back post, and then obviously it's a tap in at the far post, which he does get. So, obviously now the number 4 for obviously gets caught in between the decisions. Do I go? Do I stay in to protect the back post? You know, the ball in between the goalkeeper and him, or do I go and press against this? So for me, the one on the edge of the box needs to drop in to deal with that. Yep. So again, he should do more.
There you go, Varda. It's
a late reaction. You know, they're seeing things because they're seeing things build. It's like the previous two we've seen. So they're watching things unfold and a lot of ball watching going on.
But this is something that I've been saying for the past couple of years, really, and it's not just on one. It's with most teams in Cyprus as well. Defenders, the ball watching is unbelievable. And they make such basic mistakes. Like, for example, you know when they say never let the ball bounce, you know, just head it away. They don't even do that. I'm thinking, okay, I'm not a pro footballer, but I know this.
I think one of the things, the common tactical trend we saw in Cyprus, especially from the backline players, was they would follow players
right
all over the place. So even if you have players between lines, they would always step in regardless. So it always open up gaps. Again, that's something we're going to show later on.
Right. This is another one. I remember doing the review of this game. It was Bayek. We lost 1-0. This is the goal. So much wrong here. Tell me when you want me to stop, mate.
Now, well, obviously, first thing, wide areas, stop the cross. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't really make out what was going on in the end bit of this, but you're partly unlucky in the fact that obviously backpedaling, transfer of weight, someone who's a bit bigger of you, it's a little bit difficult to defend that situation. But at the same time, if you're expecting the cross, let's just have a look here if they're ready for the cross. No, they're already, they cut. The weight's always heading backwards. They're not actually prepared to drop with any intensity to then be set to deal with the ball.
Yeah, mate. There's a few things that, again, when I did the review, I didn't go into great detail, but upon watching the game again, the first thing that I noticed, and again, this is just me being weird about stuff like this. Zahario again is the guy. He's the nearest to the ball. They say one on the ball, one in the wall, right?
That's right.
So he's the nearest to the ball. He's the one man in we call him a wall, I guess. He's there. But the number 5 is the guy that puts the original cross in the box from the set piece, right? I'm thinking, if I'm Zahario, I'm looking at the plan thinking, right, he's right-footed. So I'm going to remember that for a start.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm the defenders, I can only see that Zahario was the furthest man forward because how many Omonoia players are back? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Everyone's back. So Zahario was the furthest man forward, but he's, as you said, in more like a wide area. So when the ball's cleared, you'd expect him to be either in the wide area or the ball to be played in the wide area, right? But the ball's played in the box, and Hubo has got all the time in the world. No one's on him. Seasoned pro, he can deal with it. The second thing I noticed in this passage of play, he heads it straight back into danger. He heads it straight back into a central area. Now, if you can see Zahario was the only player furthest forward, shall I say, and he's in a wide area, head it in a wide area. Would that not make sense? But he heads it straight forward, straight back into danger.
Yeah, the clearance isn't the best. It needs to either go, into an area where you've got bodies or get it away, well away, which again, from that header situation is a bit more difficult. But for me, head it into, like you say, into wide areas where you've got bodies. Obviously with every set piece, especially defensive, you've got a counter-attack threat in mind. Yeah. So you would position that against wherever they've obviously left their backline players or whoever in place. And for example, some like to counter-attack the far side just because that's where there's less bodies. Some like to attack down the same side because people get drawn in. There's different ways of doing things. But, again, this is just straight down the middle of the pitch. Again, not the best. And again, even though the ball's gone backwards now, the backline have to get themselves up as quick as they can. They probably can't get out all the way, so they get a good line. Then now it's the same as the first goal in the end, in the idea of that, okay, you're in a 1v1, keep them wide. He's obviously, you mentioned he's right-footed and he's a set piece taker, so delivery-wise, he's going to be decent. Even if he gets inside the field, a shot could be the next dangerous thing that could happen. So again, I have to be able to deal with that. But use the touchline as a friend, keep him out wide, put him on his left foot, but they don't. So, it's a catalogue of things there. Yeah.
Ouch. Now people be watching thinking, "Oh my God, you're tearing the players to bits," and this isn't what we're doing. It's just basic errors again that we want to point out because, as I said before, a lot of people are very quick to destroy Berg and his system and this and that. But Berg isn't on the pitch, and I'm sure if he was as a central defender back in the day, he'd have been dealing with those.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, like I say, the things that we mentioned in the conversation earlier that will lead into and feed into things that are going on now. I don't think it's a particular system thing. I think it's you get individual errors through things like fatigue, all the other things that we mentioned as well. So it does happen.
Yeah. Well, as you said, they can be eradicated, and hopefully they will be. Let's go to the next one. Against your old boys, Pafos. What happens here, mate? What happens here? Come on.
Again, we're dealing in the wide area again.
Yep.
We blocked the cross. A bit lucky.
This is I've been destroying Zahari. He's a lovely guy. He and I we speak quite often, but I'm sure he'd be the first one to admit that he could have done a lot better with those first two. But this one, I think he's more unlucky than anything because he does well to actually block Valakari, but it's just a bounce.
Yeah, that's the unlucky part of this bit. But for me, it's the next bit that's kind of important. So now you're going to get a delivery. Yeah. Are we ready to receive crosses into the box now? Probably not, I would argue. So there's probably only one defender there, two that are probably ready to receive the danger. And obviously now, I think that's Semedo, Pafos now, is making the run across. The body positioning from that defender, he's facing his own goal. So he's not really aware of the man coming from his right shoulder. So for me, this is technical things. I was coached, and I pass on to my players now. Even on defending the box situation, you almost want to see 3 flags. So the nearest corner flag to you, and then the furthest corner flags up the field, where you open yourself up, and then obviously that'll allow you to see the runners come into the box, and obviously then it'll allow you to see the danger and obviously deal with the danger, and you can still see the ball. So, and
you've got 5 or 6 players in the box, and the one guy that's not picked up is the one that scores. I mean, that must be frustrating as well as a manager watching that.
Yeah.
And that there's only one guy that's really any kind of threat, and he gets in front of, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, it's been, again, that's a thing where it's an individual thing where they're not in the right position and not basically displaying the correct technical thing that you need to do in that situation.
Yeah. Well, those matches that we've shown, aside from Abuel, the derby game, Buffer was one of the opening games of the season. Anorthosis was in Bayek, where in October, around about the time when we were playing Conference League football. You think the travel and the matches, the intensity played a part in this?
Yeah, I agree. I firmly believe it, because I think you look at it's a consistent thing now, isn't it? You look at the record of any team that's been involved in Europe and across all of the leagues. I'd like to see some stats on it, to be fair, particularly on teams that on budgets similar to yours, squad sizes similar to yours, that tend to struggle to deal with Thursday, and the random fixture nature of Cyprus is not always a Sunday. So it's you could play at any time. That's another thing that comes into it. So you probably sometimes you're doing a 3-game week, which you're probably utilizing, let's be fair, 12, 13, 14 players at that time if you want to play a consistent team. But obviously over the course of 18 months, that wears thin. So if you can't bring in and build a bulk of squad out a little bit more, it becomes very, very difficult.
Absolutely, mate. All right, on to the next, and it is our Ajax opening game of the season. Oh.
Yeah, right. We're still on the topic of wide areas, so it's obviously a thing for the system that we were talking about.
Well, it's what I said the other day on the pod. We've conceded 17 league goals, and if you want to talk about where most of the goals originates from, 8 from the left and 7 from the right.
Right. Yeah. And obviously in this system as well, you don't particularly want your centre backs always have to come out to deal with the wide areas.
Yeah.
So it's usually the centre midfielder that will cover. So obviously, isolated 1v1, ball down the side, he's now having to do 2 jobs. The centre midfielder should have come, but now because the centre back's seen it, he's now having to be forced to come. But that's what really should be happening. So if he's in that position now, he can protect the ball across the goal.
Right. So Bashiru should have tracked the runner. Lang should have been more central. Okay.
Yeah, that's that would be a preference. Then you've got 3 versus 1 to deal with the ball across the centre of the box. But even then, he's got himself between 2 defenders. The delivery is not bad, but again, if you just go back to when the ball is delivered, are we ready to defend the box?
Right. Well, the thing is, don't you think Matt has just been clever though? Because if you see he's taken a couple steps forward, then he's
great movement. Yeah, you got it. Sometimes obviously we've been a little bit negative so far, but you got to just appreciate some really good movement.
Yep.
That's a little bit of experience there from him, where he's stepped, taken the defender one way, but then he said, "No, I'm just going to backtrack a little bit," and he's just created 2 or 3 yards for himself.
Yeah,
delivery is excellent.
Yeah, again, Hubo looking at the ball the whole time as well, not looking at the man. He's looking at the ball again.
Yeah. That's when you get that centre back, full back in decisions like it's your man, not my man kind of thing. that Matt's created from that little bit of movement.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Flora Tallinn. Oh, crikey. We got our gel in this one.
Just for throwbacks here, aren't we? Yeah, this is a 1v1. You know, I think this guy's left foot in terms of his delivery, so we're letting him inside the field. But again, we're on about showing wide. You know, making it more difficult for the opponent to deliver. I don't think we're too bad at this situation, so we're fine here. But again, it's just a little bit of clever movement, and again, the delivery is good. So this one's more about stopping a delivery.
It is, but for me, Lang doesn't do enough, and the reason why I say this is because you got Banayodu, who's the youngster who I mentioned earlier. He's got his arm out, so he's holding off the centre forward. Yeah. You got Lang behind him, and you're thinking, all right, well, if Banayodu doesn't deal with it, because perhaps he doesn't have as good as a jump as the striker, Lang should be dealing with it. But okay, it's one of those where they kind of sandwich the striker, the ball falls to him. But what Lang does afterwards in terms of trying to stop the shot, it's like with Kiko. It was like a lazy, outstretched leg, not even that. If you look at his right foot, look at that. I mean, come on, mate. That's not how you defend. You throw your body in the way of it. Instead, he just sticks out his right foot.
He's on the back foot initially from the cross, so when he's landed, it's different.
Oh, you're letting him off? You're letting him off?
No, I'm letting him off on this one. I mean, I'll give him an out on this one. I think that's a difficult thing for him to just transfer his weight forward, but I'll feel free to go against me on that.
No worries, mate. No worries. All right, this is the Super Cup game against Analyst. There was a 1-1 draw. We won it on penalties. Our first domestic game of the season, because we had I think it was Antwerp.
Yeah,
I think it was Antwerp, and then we had these guys, and then the second league with Antwerp. So yeah.
Yeah,
but this is the goal, isn't it? This is the goal. Ball out.
Again,
yeah,
failing to stop the cross.
Yeah, Foddy not tracking the runner. Yeah,
yeah. Again, tracking runs. I think you end up 3 versus 2 in the middle of the goal.
But Charlie, how many yards is that? 10 yards?
Yeah, 10.
He's giving 10 yards. Anyway, right, okay.
And sometimes you got to accept that deliveries will happen, but you got to be able to deal with the next phase. So you got to be ready to defend the next phase. And obviously in this, it's not. You're not. You've isolated one centre back 2v1, 3v2 if you count all 3 of those. And also what happens next.
Well, this is the guy that he made that. Do we even see it in this passage? We do, don't we? Because he starts off deep, doesn't he? And I think Humble was on him. Was it Humble? Was it Yordi? No, Humble. Yeah. That's Yordi. That's Humble. Yeah. So that should that have been Yordi's man? Because he's scanned and he's seen him.
Yeah.
If you look at Yordi number 16, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Can you see my mouse?
Yeah. I think for me,
he scans.
Again, there's no real danger that he needs to deal with now. So he probably needs, the back line. I think that's communication along the lines where the back line said, no, you need to get in and recover to deal with this. Or even if the opposite centre midfielder comes in to deal with it, I don't mind which one it would be. But because they've not passed on. Yeah. It's become an issue.
To be honest, mate, again, I don't want to be too critical, but that's actually a really good delivery.
Yeah,
it's pinpoint. It's pinpoint because it gets in between the 2 centre backs, doesn't it? But it's pinpoint, absolutely pinpoint.
Yeah, it's a great ball. It's obviously what they're set up to do as well. We know how they play. It's part of their DNA.
Yeah, it gets Bayer's DNA.
It's part of the way they play.
Well, the guy that scored in the first video with Analyst, that's Get Spy's godson, right? Okay. And he released him. He didn't want him anymore.
Maybe it's not always in the DNA then.
Oh boy! All right, this one. This stadium, quite well. The 1-1 draw against Pafos.
Yeah, so this is
goal, right?
Yeah, this is now we're moving on to a different topic about space between the lines. And obviously with the system, at times, because it's very, very flat in the terms, it's very rigid and flat in terms of lines out of possession. You'll find that if you don't deal with the deep lying midfielder, it creates issues beyond the next set of lines. So you've got to keep your distances between your lines, pretty compact and well. And this is why I also drew attention to Leicester and Atletico earlier on in the video, because what they did really, really well is shut down spaces to deny opponents any time to play forward. So again,
Charlie, before you carry on, can I just be really pedantic here, right? Why is the 36-year-old for the bubble league complaining about the ball going out when there's a man right there? Should he not be more focused on the man instead of appealing?
If you go back a sec, I can probably tell you why he ended up there. Let's have a look.
Is it because he thought the ball?
He goes to press Vida, I think.
Oh, he goes to press.
I think he goes to press. If I'm not mistaken. It's a bit close up, you see.
Right,
yeah,
okay,
so he's coming out to deal with they've dropped a midfielder in, or they're building with three. They're building with three players, so he's come out to press the wider centre back. So that no one's obviously, that's where Pafos has done him a little bit tactically.
He's more focused on the ball going out for a throw-in, mate. Anyway, you were saying with the positioning, this looks a bit.
Yeah, and then obviously because they're trying to deal with the midfield players, then no one knows who needs to go and press the ball carrier. It'll open up pockets to play around or through the opposition there. So even if the nearest midfielder comes and steps out and to press the ball, you play the one inside, and then obviously play the number 10 who gets on the ball, or you can just you can be brave and play the pass between the lines and go. But right now, that ball carrier's got three options to play, and it all breaks a line of the midfield.
Right. Okay. He can switch it to the flank. He's got a guy in between Mix and Yai. He's got a guy that's calling for the ball. You've got the number 10, as you mentioned. Yeah.
So in terms of, that's what I'm saying about, because it's quite a rigid midfield line. It allows you to do things like that. And then obviously now, you and me spoke about after the game when I texted you about, that's what Valakari does. It's his bread and butter.
Yeah.
What he does, you've got to track his run and close him down the edge of the box.
You can't give him time to do that, though. No, I know he's done it in a split second, but he's so talented. God, and as you mentioned, track the runner. Mix is too busy looking at the ball.
It's your man.
Yeah, 100%. You know what? Jan got a lot of stick for that for Valakari's goal, but again, that's not on Lesiak at all. Okay, he could have got closer, but as you said, you're expecting the runner. Right? Oh God, this game again. This game again. And
this is what I'm saying about just about being able to deal with that. Yeah, that field player. So, we're not, like I said, we're not advocating anything within this video, but we're just saying how teams will deal with things a little bit differently. They might drop one of those forwards onto that player, to stop that from happening. And then obviously from there, because you've got players in between lines, the indecision creates problems for your, especially where the centre back steps out there, because he's got players between lines. He almost feels like he has to do it. And if you get that slight second of indecision or overcommitment, someone's already gone in the space that you've left. Yeah. So someone's now in that space that he's left, which forces obviously the knock-on effect of the next one.
Yeah, Jordi isn't quick enough to shut him down.
Yeah, what I mean. That for me, that's why I said about just dropping it forward onto him, and then let one of the centre backs have it. But that's, again, I'm talking from my own preference here, not from what they're wanting to do in terms of our possession shape.
The one thing I've noticed about this one in comparison to all the other goals that we've shown in this one, the passing, one touch.
Yeah.
One touch passing.
Yeah, and obviously that, the tempo of one touch is good enough to draw most teams in the world out. That's not a bad first touch, to be fair. That's not a bad first touch. It's not. I
hate to admit, but it's not a bad first touch.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, it's just because you got players in between and halfway between your units and lines, you get that indecision. So if you're in unison, as I talked about at the top of the video, if you're in unison,
is it because we don't have the players that can press, or that just aren't quick enough to get to the ball? Do you think that's what it is?
I mean, just thinking that, looking at this, if I would say the backline before that pass is played,
right, let me go back up.
Need to be a little bit higher.
Right. Okay.
The ball's actually quite deep right now. So if the backline could get up in line with where the far side Apoel player is on he's playing left wing, If the back line can get all the way up to be in line with that, then
Right.
centre backs actually in a pressable distance to the next one, and obviously then you can push the midfield line a little bit higher.
Right. Okay. So in that case, do you think our defenders are playing? Our two central defenders are playing a bit deeper because of their lack of pace?
Yeah, I think obviously he's wanting to press, and at times, no matter how much you want that to happen as a coach, the players will always compensate for for things that they're worried about. So if they are worried about pacing behind, which obviously, Apoel have got a couple of good players that can exploit spacing behind, then yeah, I would say people are worried. But again, it's about how you can get the units in unison about when to drop, when to step up, when to press, and being able to shut that down. And obviously, I know it's really good one-touch football. We can't. We don't want to praise them too much, but it is good.
Don't praise them at all, mate.
It's good one-touch football. But like I said, if you just make the slight adjustments, and a lot of these things are just little things that we obviously we seem a little bit nitpicky at times, but little things do cost in professional football. So. Yeah.
Well, a lot of Omonoia fans are crying out for a number 10 to play in this team. We've got Foddy Babuli, but 35, 36 years old. What would having a number 10 do for a defensive system? Not pressing from the front, so to speak, but in a situation such as that, what would the number 10 do?
Yeah, well, you deal with the deep lying midfielder most of the time, which it's actually quite in most systems where you probably if you're a 4-4-2 now, you could be a 4-4-1-1 or 4-2-3-1, depending on how you want to press the opposition. And if you have a 10 in the side that can deal with a deep liar, like for example, there's a 4-2-3-1. That's a very, very simple thing that I've been experienced to in the past. That the 10 deals with a deep liar.
Right.
And centre forward looks after one of the centre backs, and then you try and force them into wide areas, and that's quite a simple way of dealing with that. Because it's the principles I can see in how they want to press the ball is like that. They want to keep the opponent wide, but at times when you get isolated with 2-3 yards of space, you can't defend that. Because the opponents can go either side of you. And obviously, you're giving defensive midfielders time on the ball, then you're going to get switched on. And again, when you're playing a 4-4-2, being switched on is not a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. All right, what we got next? Doxa. This is another catalogue of errors.
Yeah, so now that's what we're saying about this one now. The obviously midfield line's got distance between midfield forward line is good. Obviously, you defend a little bit deeper, but midfield players will be shut down. Ball into there, it's a pressable distance. So for now, things look okay. But again, shut that down.
Yeah.
1v1s again. But now because the distance between midfield and backline is massive, people pick things up in the pocket, and then it's just 4 passes from there, and then you're chasing bodies because you got forward runs coming from midfield.
Yeah. What irritated me most about this goal was the fact that the central midfielder was just able to turn with no pressure whatsoever. And as you quite rightly said, Bashiru and Mix, they're so far up the field now. I mean, even who was that trying to get at the ball as well? Who was that? Wasn't that one Yordi, was it? No, Yordi wasn't playing that one. Who was that? Was that Gagu? I can't remember. Who is that? That's Dura. Even he didn't try and win the ball, So you got 3 players, and he's taken 3 players out of the game. All right, albeit one of them is a forward, and even the runner, Sadiq, Hubachan is looking at him. So why hasn't he followed him?
Yeah,
it's too late at this point.
Yeah, again, it's we spoke about, you got to deal with 1v1 situation as well. Then you've got to build the track runners, which again we've shown in 2 or 3 goals already.
Yeah.
So we're not. We might feel like we're nitpicking, as I've said, but actually we're talking about consistent themes.
Yeah. So there you go. And this is exactly what I've been saying all season, mate. It's not as if it's just isolated incidents. It's happening frequently, and it's consistent, which is a massive problem. Bear in mind that we conceded, I think we had 16 clean sheets in the last 20 games last season to this. So it's a big problem. But as you said, and I'm confident they can address it. They should have addressed it by now. But anyway, right. Again, this one. Yeah. Wow. Antwerp.
So this is before he smashes it. just go back a second. So obviously, before that happens, obviously this is now obviously we've shown a clip where we're a little bit deeper, but now with high pressed again, fine. But now we've got to be willing that the distances between lines and players is going to be massive. So teams will be prepared to go up more direct. So at times you might find that the braver teams, like these will play 4v4. They'll back themselves to play 4v4.
Yeah.
So now it becomes about individual battles and being able to deal with the situations that arise within there. Obviously now you get beaten in the air and then the run. And then for me as well, I might be a little bit harsh on the keeper here, but I think if the keeper has a higher starting position, I don't know where the keeper is when this ball is kicked, but it seems like he's very, very deep.
Yeah.
So
he came out and he hesitated and then he carried on. And then
for me now, if the keeper will be dropping here at this instance because the ball's been played long, but he still isn't going to be back on his goal line. So I just expect him to be a little bit higher than he was now. Yeah. Obviously, I know he gets caught in between, but I just thought he was going to be a little bit higher. I'm not saying he has to come and deal with the ball, but I thought I'd expect him to be a little bit higher.
Okay, what about the flick on here though? I know the keeper's walloped it down the field. It's very difficult to measure the flight of the ball, and the way it drops. But surely the centre back should be doing much better. Yeah,
like I said, your individual battles. You're going to be faced with 1v1 situations, particularly when you press high.
Right.
So obviously you've got the header and you've got the run as well.
Got ya. All right, this is the first leg, which we won 4-2. And to be honest, that second half was probably the best I've seen us in a couple of years, in all fairness.
And the distances there they're okay. This is why I actually praise them on this one. This is good distances. The only things are just if you go back a second to when those arrows are on the screen. Like if you're being nitpicky, that's what you just need to change slightly.
Right. Okay.
The centre midfielder come across to stop that pass to feet. Your far side midfielder comes around. So then, if that ball's switched through between the centre forward, you can press that and deal with it. But then, he's found the pass through. So it's such a tiny thing. This is the quality of opposition that you're playing. But then, watching the ball, attracted to the ball, not track the runner in the box. It's a great ball, goal. And unfortunately, that's just I wonder if sometimes confidence has been knocked against teams being able to open them up by that's a tiny thing.
Yeah,
I would question many teams in Cyprus that could do that to them from that type of play.
Right. Should the cross been dealt with? Do you think the cross should have been dealt with?
Yeah, I mean, you sense where's the danger now. The fullback's got to get him. Either of them have got to get between the man and the ball. I mean, for me, the fullback has to probably come in and deal with that because the centre back's recovering to an area to deal with the ball. It's come from the fullback, so probably the fullback's man to deal with. Okay,
I was just looking at Shehu again, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's a bit it's a one that sucks a little bit.
This one.
So we've gone chasing, haven't we? Obviously, if we're chased there, and obviously you're a man down in this game, aren't you?
Yeah. So that's right.
You got to get back in. You got to get back in. And then the spaces have opened up. That's to play through. But now you're 5v4, I think it is 6v4. And obviously pressure on the ball.
There was none at all, Charlie. He took the ball from the halfway line.
Yeah.
Was he even in his own half when he got the ball? He was in his own half when he got the ball.
Yeah. You see the late recovery run there. From players track back.
Yeah.
He's initiated his recovery run a little bit too late.
Yeah.
So obviously he's gone pressing there, but he's saying, what we're doing. And he's
fully trained. Yeah.
He's still walking around. Transition's happening, but we're just jogging back. And then, there's a transition.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit too late. But still now, pressure on the ball.
The thing is, he's only his only aim is to shoot. He doesn't look up to the left-hand side. You've got the guy on the far end calling for the ball. So he's only got one intention, that's to shoot.
Yeah.
And all right, it gets blocked and it's a deflection. But
as a keeper, that's horrible.
Yeah.
I've got to say. It's horrible to deal with.
Blimey. Okay, what's the next one? I should have memorized them, to be honest. Biglivani, sorry. Right.
Yeah. So this is more transition based now. So obviously we've covered distances between and different lines, but this is now a transition thing. And obviously, I commend the way at times you guys play. But you got good pitch position, but now you've lost it, and the balance isn't too bad behind. So when you talk about balance, it just means what defenders you've left behind. But often with the way in this system, it's often your two centre backs are your last line, and then in front it's either a full back and a centre midfielder or two full backs. So usually, if teams manage to hit you in behind quite quickly, you will find yourself with a 1v1 situation with a fast player against a centre back.
Yeah.
So now here you've got the opposition have got I think it's either 9 or 10 behind the ball.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you've committed McCann quickly 7. So now not too bad, but then it's just because you've got such good pitch position. I think some things need to be adjusted earlier on that to stop that transition moment. And I pulled out a stat I was just looking obviously online that face 40, all the counter-attacks you've had this season, 47% have ended in a shot on goal. Counter-attacks again.
Wow.
So how the transition is protected is a thing that probably needs to be looked at.
Question here, Charlie. If you're Henning Berg, right, what are you saying to EI right now? I don't know if you see the mouse circling around him. He's about to approach the halfway line. Just keep an eye on him. And his lack of urgency, that's jogging. He's jogging. Look, he's jogging.
He gets overtaken by the man behind him.
Now, do you see why I get so angry?
Even on this one now, it's obviously the one before, it's a little bit uncontrollable where they've received the ball quickly and they've gone quite quick. But now, for me, with the intensity that sometimes you guys press at, if you go back, if you go back a little bit, you've lost the ball high. Win it back quickly. Press that immediate press now. There's not really much of a press. Even here, press him on the touchline, stop the forward pass, but you've allowed the forward pass. But even in this situation now, you're 5v3, you should be able to deal with it. But because things have not been done earlier, it's a reactionary and recovery run, and obviously it's a good touch and a good finish. But I'll put it in this now, get in quicker.
Even Berg's calling for, isn't he? And that was a big goal because, I think we're 4-1 up at the time, if I'm not mistaken. I think, were we 4-1 up at the time?
Yeah.
3-1 up, sorry. 3-1 up at the time.
Yeah.
That takes us to 3-2. And then, I know we ended up winning 4-2. We blew it in the second leg, but I don't know.
Obviously, you got to deal with it earlier for me. I mean, you've lost it high. You're in control of the game at 3-1 against a good team.
Exactly. See, this is it. It's the opposition. This tie against Antwerp, while the mistakes were glaringly obvious to see, I kind of not let them off, but I was like, well, come on, Antwerp's budget is 10 times more than ours. They've got better technical players. They're fitter. They're quicker. Yeah. But stuff like this, the opening game against Ajax.
Yeah.
These are the ones you saw before, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a Matt's goal.
That's it, actually, after that. I don't know why they've gone on the back of the ones before.
It's all right.
Yeah. We've had a repeat. We've had a rerun.
Oh, yeah. This is the penalty, which we gave away. Uzoho. Is this? Hang about. I think. See, I didn't send you the clip from the beginning of it because not this one. Here it is. Yeah. We have a corner.
Yeah, nobody's talking.
Doesn't beat the first man.
Yeah. And
then once the ball bounces, there's nothing he can do about it. I don't know what Sati could have done, to be fair. But once Ndongala's gone through, that's it. But all right, I think Francis does well to block him. But there's no need to pull him down when you've got a man behind.
Yeah.
It's just little things here and there. And look, again, as I said at the top of the show, we're not here to bash the players. They've had it difficult, and we've seen how fans are going on their backs, how management is getting blamed for everything. But these are mistakes that could be avoided, and going forward they can be prevented. Yeah. So in terms of, let's say, for example, moving forward now, Charlie, when you look at all these mistakes that have been made and most of these were prior to 2022. Obviously, we've only played 3 games this year. And you look at the quality of player that Omonoia has. You mentioned statistics earlier, and how far are we off from last season from a statistical point of view in terms of pressing, in terms of anything in general, really?
Yeah, the obviously in terms of goals, I think in terms of goals per game and expected goals, you were a little bit lower than last year, but that was to be expected with the results that you've had. I think what's quite a striking one is that home performance versus away performance. So away performance is actually better in terms of expected goals, as well. And I'm saying that's obviously shown in a few results as well, I think, in terms of the chances that have been created. And might be as well to the design of how you want to play as well. Maybe some teams at home a little bit more obviously braver than they would be when they come to your place. In terms of just the only one that's probably striking is in terms of the out of possession stuff. And obviously this video has been very, very out of possession based. And there's a thing called passes per defensive action. And it doesn't necessarily mean how successful you've been at pressing the ball or anything like that. But it just means that, amount of times teams are building to then for you to do a defensive action to affect the ball. And last year it was just under 10, so 9.9. This season is 9.9. Last season was 12.8. So it's actually less, more last year than it was this year. So maybe this year it'd be interesting to look at. Have you been a little bit braver in the way you pressed, or are players getting a bit more irritated with the situations that they find themselves in? Are they wanting to go press the ball a bit more, but they're making poor decisions to go and affect the ball? Or are they finding themselves having to affect the ball more often because they're making more mistakes? Like I said, for example, in that, again, the first clip we showed, there's probably 4 or 5 defensive actions before the pass is made because you've missed a 1v1, missed another 1v1, and things have happened like that. So maybe that affords for more mistakes, and because it's so high, it could mean that in one case last season you're a bit more structural, was having more success. So
yeah, I think that makes sense.
The
one that I think, 442 standard. I think the one thing that most fans will be questioning in the comment section is what you mentioned about the XG and chances created. As you're fully aware, many fans believe that the only job a striker has is to score goals. I say it isn't. That isn't the only thing a striker has to do. It's what they do off the ball as well, whether it be getting stuck in or assisting or their overall gameplay. Shepherd has come under immense criticism this season. I think he's only got 2 or 3 league goals. And my main gripe, or my main argument to a lot of these fans, is the same with Duris last season, in the sense that if you're not giving opportunities, how do you expect him to score? He's feeding off of scraps. He's had probably 4 clear-cut opportunities this season in 1v1 situations.
Yeah, you're not too far off in terms of XG from last year, in terms of your own, but the difference is the goals per game. So maybe you are creating 1 or 2 high quality chances a game, and then obviously not finishing them. Whereas last season, you're averaging a goal and a half a game in the league. Now this season, it's a goal a game on both sides. So, in terms of how that's broken down away from home, I'm just trying to have a look at the moment for you, which would be interesting to see. But there's definitely big differences between the away performance and the home performance.
100%. At home, is okay. I'm not going to say it's been terrible, but there've been numerous games this season where we've turned around. We said we got out of jail. Buff at home, the 1-0. Doxa, that game that you saw where he's beating the keeper at the near post. Doxa had 2 other goals disallowed in that game, and we scored 2 in the last 4 minutes. Even Buffo away. I know Buffo had 10 men, and my argument was, look, it's more difficult to play against 10 men than it is with 11, especially the likes of Buffo are very compact. We got a 94th minute equaliser, but again, getting out of jail.
Yeah, I'm just reading that now. So obviously we know that the man sent off in that game, it's 2.8 was the XG. Expected goals. It's not saying that you've just had 2.8 goals worth of high quality chances. Depending on the quality of chance, the score obviously differs. But just reading down even things like I said, shots and shots on target percentages, plenty of shots per game, very little on target at times.
So what is it? We're less clinical than last season, would you say?
Yeah. So I think I think last season, shots wise, were probably less on average. I'm guessing. I'm just trying to have a look now and compare the two. Yeah, so last season is a little bit less, but more clinical. So the target percentage is higher.
Right. Okay. So again, that's another interesting fact there. We are creating practically more chances than last season, but we're just not putting them away. So
it's only a little bit different, but there are little things that do account for it. But the obvious glaring thing, which we've talked about highly in this video, is the defensive side, which is, that's the biggest difference.
Right.
Expected goals against you is a lot higher than last season. And obviously chances against you this season is obviously a lot higher. And obviously we know that because we conceded more. So
do you know, it's a shame I didn't get some of the goals from last season to draw a comparison in terms of the type of goals that we've conceded. But then again, as I said, last season we went through such a great run of not conceding goals. It's kind of difficult to really slate the players for conceding goals last season because they did so well not to concede goals. I
think at times as well when you win in games, you don't particularly care about the one or two you might concede in the game.
This is it.
So
this is it.
Obviously we've the reason why I picked clips is because I was trying to show that it's a consistent thing, not a thing that's just happened once or twice in a season and people were like, oh, you've just pulled it out for the sake of it. But they're the common three things with this system that you've obviously asked me to look at, but it's a consistent thing and they're all preventable. So and the best thing obviously for the coaches, they're coachable as well. So obviously I've seen the team play, albeit last season, but I'm confident that they can find that given the time.
So in terms of the summer, obviously we're in January now, the window's going to close soon. I don't think we're going to bring in any players, and in all fairness, I don't want to see anyone coming in at the moment. I know people are going to say to me, oh well, we're not doing well, this and that, but my point is we've got several players out of contract in the summer. These players deserve the opportunity to play for their contracts. Also, we've got a whole heap of youngsters breaking through. Johnny is probably going to leave. Looks like he's going to Sporting KC. So that's money in the bank for the summer. If Henning Berg remains head coach, which I hope he will, I'm pretty sure he'll be backed. So can you see the manager strengthening defensively?
Yeah, I think the key thing is if he's allowed to bring in the players he wants to bring in. Again, I'm not too clued up on the politics of that within the club, but
I don't think anyone is, to be honest. I'm not going to lie to you.
But if he's allowed to, I'm pretty confident he'll be okay. I think the confident things is obviously I think you brought for a youngster tonight that scored. So there's obviously something in the youth pathway that's doing really well at the club. And obviously you're going to get money from, again, it's not always great to sell a player, but you're selling a player for some good money from your youth pathway. I think made his debut against us when I was there last year, I think, in the game against us at Pafos. I'm pretty sure it was
Humber?
No.
Was it Loisville?
Johnny's, I think.
Oh, Johnny's?
Yeah.
No, Johnny's made his debut when he was 17. I think it might be Humber's. I think it was Humber's made his debut against you guys.
Yeah, because it was a very young team that you put out against us, I remember.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, God, yeah, I remember that. First day of the season, 2-2, when VAR was brought down in the opening 5-10 minutes. Yeah. He's disappeared. Yeah. He's disappeared. Literally disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that one, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, he's a cracking player. Absolutely cracking player. But it's a shame that he's not behaving himself, so to speak, because, the way that Buffalo are playing this season. Have you been watching your old club anyway?
Only bits. Obviously, having the chance to do this is nice to kind of rekindle a few things. I still speak to a few of the players. They're fantastic guys. I was very, very welcome there. I always keep in touch, and it's great to see so many of them that I was there with that are doing well. And that's all you can really ask for, is that when you leave somewhere, you leave it in a better place than where you started. So I'm glad that the guys are doing so well. If they can get top 6 this year, that's a massive achievement for the club. So that's good.
Oh, 100%. And on a final note, mate, what do you make of the quality of the Cypriot League compared to last season? I think there's been a rapid improvement, and it isn't just about the quality of players that have been brought in. I think the coaching, and even from the S&C side, has been top notch from many clubs.
Yeah, I think the clubs are seeing the benefits of its European exposure. One, I think obviously that's geared towards the top end, but even now, you've seen teams being promoted into the league and are competing well. Whereas before it used to be quite a 50-50 split across the league. So in terms of, you could probably guess before the season who was probably going to be in the top 6 and who was not going to be in the top 6 come the split. Whereas now, you've got that nice bit of unpredictability about it because teams are readily available to compete. They're signing good players in good leagues, and obviously they're coming to perform as well. And it's just quite a good, exciting time, really. My only wish is hopefully that you can sustain it, and obviously just continue to grow the league. And I think if you can grow the league a bit further and have a few more teams in the first division, that'll make it quite an exciting league then, with a good structure around it.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing for me then is just obviously to keep filling the stadiums and obviously generate more money and income through European football as well.
Well, 2 Champions League places up for grabs this season.
Exactly. So that's that's a massive thing. Yeah,
it's huge, absolutely huge. So yeah, Charlie, listen, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. And next time, I promise I'll get that annotate thing working, and then you can start drawing the lines because I was just messing about there. But yeah, thank you again for your time. And like I said, guys, leave comments, like, subscribe to your NOUNA. And as Charlie said, we can turn it around. Believe in Berg. I do. Ade. Bamishilakam.